And that segues into this question of why should I follow my shots or consequences if my kid got honest or made amends on their own? And that's a really good question, because that happens sometimes. I think there may be a family where, like, just this week or last week, that kind of came up, where the kid has been in recovery for a little while, is doing some decent work, and then like screwed up. They're going to drop the ball at times, but the kid came back or let's just say even a hypothetical, like they drop the ball, they screw up, they're dishonest or something like that, but they come back before they get caught. There's a difference between getting caught and getting honest. And they come back and they're like, hey, mom, dad, I screwed up, this is what I did. And then it kind of puts you in that position of, well, like, they're admitting it and they're kind of owning it and they're, wanting to make it right. So we're kind of put in that position where, like, do I follow the procedure? And it kind of brings up my codependency a little bit, because my codependency wants to be like, oh, cool, like, that's great, good job for being honest, and just kind of move forward. But what our training says is that we follow the procedure every time. So you could do both. You can be like, hey, kiddo, that's great that you're being honest, and I really appreciate that, and that does not go unnoticed, and you were dishonest. And it's my job to hold you accountable 10 times out of 10 when you're dishonest. And part of really owning whatever it was and making it right is the consequence. And sending them that message, because it's so much about message and tone, sending them that message that we are going to follow the procedure every time. Because if I can get away with it once, well, then I'm going to most likely try to get away with it again, or see how far I can push that envelope, which is like normal human behavior and way, way normal and typical for teenagers. You have something to add to that?
Yeah, sure. That was a big issue for me. I was constantly looking for ways to make exceptions or ways to soften the blow for my daughter. And she learned to play me like a fiddle. She always knew what strings to pull or what buttons to push to get what she wanted. And learning to hide those buttons was really important for me. So that was a common deal for us. She would come in and say, hey, I need to tell you guys something, and it just became routine. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Let's go into the kitchen and look on the refrigerator and see what we're going to do. And by the end, she would actually come to us with the consequences. Hey, I need you guys to kick me out. The last time we kicked her out of the house, it was because she came to us and said, here's what happened, I need you to kick me out. There was no emotion, there was no, or at least no negative emotion. Of course there's emotion, but there wasn't any overwhelming emotion. It was just, this happened, here's what we said we were gonna do, here's what we're doing. And that made life really simple, and it helped me, especially early on, practicing those. What better time to practice calling shots, because it was really tough for me, than when your child is in a contrite state of mind, and you need that practice, and you have to practice with the little things, because when the big things come along, you need that reinforcement and that habit, the virtue of being able to do that. And so I think it's possibly more important to follow the procedures and the shots and consequences under those kind of circumstances than possibly any other time, because of that reinforcement that you get out of it.
For me, it was, or for at least for us, it was to be consistent and to keep us from becoming complacent. So, calling shots is really hard at the beginning, because you do try to find excuses, and you're like, oh, he's not perfect, but this is progress, and at least he told us first. And sometimes it's manipulation on their part, and then sometimes you just need to call a shot. And I remember one of the parents saying in climbers or in one of the meetings, if you're in doubt, just call the shot, and they'll learn. And honestly, it builds self-esteem for us as a parent, and it also builds self-esteem for them because you're making them accountable. And before, my son wasn't respecting me, and this is like the easiest way for him to respect me. Forget about love, right? It was about respect. I just need him to believe in what I'm saying. If you do this, this is going to happen. Like today, he believes that if I randomly test him and he tests positive for drugs or alcohol, he's out of the house. And that means there's no car, no cell phone, no home, no nothing. He's on his own. And he's got it. I don't even know if we would even, he's 19 now. Like, you have to work your way back. And the humiliation and everything. So when we test him, he knows, like, they mean it. Like, I'm gonna get kicked out, and I'm not going that route. That's not gonna happen. So it just keeps you in practice. And you start with little shots, tiny little ones. If you can't call a shot, like you can't kick someone out, you start with a smaller shot, something very easy, like you're on the sofa, the door comes off, whatever, you work it out with your sponsor, but it really works, and it helps you, let go of that fear. Oh my God, I have to call the shot. And keeping it on the pantry door, the easiest thing. You just go over there, you just read what you wrote, and sometimes when this is all happening at the beginning, you don't remember what you said. Nobody remembers, and it's so easy for them to want to manipulate, so.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, it's like, okay, so what's the difference between like an apology and amends? You know what I mean? Like, how many times if you ever caught your kid getting high or doing something or being dishonest or whatever, how many times have they said like, oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry, I'm never gonna do it again? I know I've done that 100 times, like, before I got sober, I knew my mom for 17 years, if there was a button, I knew where it was, so it's like, yeah, if there's something that I can say, like I'm incredible, like, my default setting is like manipulation and deceit, and amends, amends means to fix, to alter, to correct the behavior. That involves action. You can't do it by reading a book, like I wouldn't be able to work the steps just by reading the book, like it involved action. And so to me, it's like shots and consequences are one and the same with amends, but yeah, that's all I got.
Cool.